Hello, and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hello, this is Buddy C. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Drew and Lou and Scotty. Good to have you guys. Looks like during our holiday season, we may be shy a few of our regulars. Lots going on. Folks out there making amends by buying great presents for their relatives, I'm sure. That's a good one, isn't it? Buying their meals when you don't want to. What a great way to make an amend. It's a funny thing with me, with my sponsees. We have this whole amends scale. It starts with praying the will of God for the person, then praying good things for them, then praying for the things you would want, and then God blessing them in every way, then doing something nice for them, then spending money on them if nothing else works. So if I'm out and I buy the meal, who are you resentful of? Because I'm not resentful. I'm just wanting to do something nice for you guys. BuddyC.org has a lot of good resources that you can use. There's a daily devotion you can sign up there if you'd like. I don't use that email list for anything other than the devotions. There's also a list of ways to stay sober before, during, and after the holidays. We talked about that last week, and I posted a link in the episode notes last week, and I will continue to do so during the holidays. A link directly in the notes on this podcast and all the ones that I published through December till after the new year that have the direct link to download the PDF. And I may add one more thing to that. If you've never done it and you're struggling, the power of getting down on your knees and asking. I never did that. I thought I don't need to do that. And there was one day I was having a struggle different from alcohol, even if it were been alcohol. But at this point, alcohol is not. It's all these other life struggles at this point. Not that it couldn't be after 15 years, but I got down on my knees and prayed and asked for help, and it lifted in a way that it hasn't lifted with the other practices that normally work. So I would suggest just trying that, even if you don't think it will work and it sounds silly. Because for me, it sounds silly to knees and pray. I need to be thinking of someone else I can help. I get stuck in the tools that we use that work, but when they don't work as well, as be open to other things. Sometimes the most simplistic tools can help the most, especially when we have maybe ego and pride around particular things that we're just not going, we just haven't thought of doing. Not that we've really much thought about it. It's just, we don't think that's necessary. Something was necessary. And a friend of mine, recovery, suggested, I said, I'll do that. So I did. And it worked. An obsession I had been dealing with left. So take that for what it's worth. Worked for me. Try it sometime. The regular practice is when you get out of bed, get on your knees. Some people used to throw their keys under the bed, so they'd have to get down on their knees to get the keys. So they'd be on their knees in the morning when they got out of bed and ask God to keep you sober for another day, or whatever it is you're dealing with. And then the same thing at night, when you throw your keys back under the bed at night, you get on your knees again and thank God, love, whatever, or just say thank you. You don't want to put a name on it. Surprise, all those things are talking about the same thing, no matter what name you put on it. Yeah. Just come to bed with gratitude. End your day with gratitude. We've got an interesting conversation coming up in our Zen study group this week. The teacher of the book's talking about God And I'm interested in all these Buddhists, how they're going to respond to this, because a lot of them come to Buddhism because they want to get away from the idea of something greater than themselves. And every teacher that we hear reasserts the fact there is something greater than ourselves. And it's like those parts of the book we skip over normally, but this one they can't. Actually, every time we read a book, I put in the back of the book the page and how it's described, page and how it's described. And it's over and over again in every Zen book we read. But it's not described as God. It's described as something, or just the other ways people in an esoteric kind of way describe what they can't understand, but they know there's some flow of life happening that can't be explained away. I think even atheists are describing God in a way. They're describing the same thing, just coming from a different way. Because if you're so focused on disproving something, that must mean there's some belief. There's a reason you're trying to disprove. There's something there. Okay. BuddyC.org for all that stuff. Today, the 26th? Is that us? 26th. 26th verse of the Tao Te Ching. I'll go ahead and read to Stephen Mitchell to get us started. I love coming into this and not reading it or studying it beforehand, having no idea what it's going to say until I pull it up. The heavy is the root of the light. The unmoved is the source of all movement. Thus the master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, he stays serenely in himself, in herself. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. Any other translations?
I can read the Ron Hogan one, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
To be light on your feet, you need a steady mind. If your body is active, the mind should be relaxed. A master can travel long distances and still see everything she owns. She may be surrounded by beauty, but she isn't caught up in it. Why run around thoughtlessly? If you act lightly, you lose your bearings. If you act recklessly, you lose your self-control.
Thank you, Lou. Any thoughts on that?
Apparently not.
Okay, we can come back. We'll come back to you.
Think about
it. Drew.
Yeah, the initial thought I got was just being content with who you are, what you have, where you are, instead of looking for things outside yourself, looking for the next newest thing, looking for something to capture your attention for a while. If you're always traveling, you're just always seeking, always looking for the next thing over the horizon, not really content with where you are. Traveling is good. I enjoy traveling, but there's a time and a place for it. And I think this is warning against letting that mindset of just always needing to be somewhere other than where you are. You have enough where you are right now. You have plenty to keep you occupied. Instead of constantly wishing that you had something else or were somebody else or were in a different place than where you are. Remembering everything that you have will keep you a lot happier than continually seeking out something that you don't have.
Yeah. Thank you, Drew. Scotty.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I have the Jonathan Starr translation. I can read that for you. The inner is foundation of the outer. The still is the master of the restless. The sage travels all day, yet never leaves his inner treasure. Though the views are captivating and beg attention, he remains calm and uninvolved. Tell me, does the lord of a great empire go out begging for rice? One who seeks his treasure in the outer world is cut off from his own roots. Without roots, he becomes restless. Being restless, his mind is weak, and with a mind such as this, he loses all command below heaven. And really quick, the last stanza of that made me think of the line in the big book and how it works. We thought we could find an easier, softer way. If I'm seeking a treasure in the outer world, I'm looking for something outside of myself. I'm probably looking for praise. I'm looking for a reward. I'm contriving, right? So if I do that, I'm cut off from my own roots. I'm no longer connected to something greater than myself, whether that's AA as a program, whether that's my higher power, whether that's just a community of like-minded spiritual people, whatever it may be. And once I lose that connection, I get restless. And once I get restless, my mind is weak. For me, that's rumination. My head starts spinning. I slide down that shitstorm in my own head. And once I go down that slide, I've lost all command. I have no control over what I'm about to do, whether that's pick up a drink, whether that's pick a fight with somebody, whatever it is. Because I started seeking something outside of myself and my own connections, I ended up in a complete disaster inside my own head. It's funny how it went full circle from seeking outside of myself to having a real issue that's living inside my own mind. And it happens all the time, actually.
Oh man, that resonates with me. I've gone through this whole series of 2 or 3 things, but probably 3 or 4 things, to be honest, where some minor annoyance happens. Something I sent for hasn't arrived. I remember one of them was my phone wasn't working right. And I knew that we'd forgotten we'd traveled or something, and we got our payment in a couple of days late. And I thought, what the heck? They're messing with my phone because I didn't get my payment in. Because it says in the bubbles of the notes in there, it says that they can do that. So I'm trying to get a hold of them, getting worked up about it. And I call them, and I finally get through to somebody, and I'm saying, look, I've been your customer for all these years. It was only a couple of days late. What's the deal with it? Oh, you can't talk to us. You got to talk to somebody in the other department. So I go to the other department, and I get more worked up. I talk to them, and I get my phone through a university alumni thing. So there's this young college student, and she's going, Mr. Adams, I'm not sure. Let me check into it. Come to find out, I just needed to reboot my phone. Had nothing to do with the bill, had nothing to do with that. And and that should have been enough, right? Come back to the program. Okay, learn that lesson. No, I had to do it 2 or 3 more times, different things. And then finally, it's like my video blitzing on and off, and I had a video connection problem. And finally, I thought I had it fixed, but it was like I'm inside my own head when this isn't working, that one's not going to work. I sent for something that didn't connect up right. And finally I said, I just got to let this stuff go. And no sooner did I do that, and it occurred to me in my brain that, oh, something I've got the Roku hooked up to would probably work. And sure enough, it did. But I got stirred up in my own head and forgot everything about following the program and doing this. And fortunately, after slapped upside the head 3 or 4 times, it came to me, and I came back to it. I'm glad I had it to come back to.
It's funny how that happens, isn't it, Lou? I had the same thing happen this week to me. I had an app on my phone. I was looking for a different podcast app after Android dropped Stitcher. I was looking for another app to use on Android. And I went through a pile of different apps. And I found one that I really like. It's called, and it's free, Pocket Cast. Seems to work really well. But I tried another one that had a similar name, and I'd subscribed thinking it was going to work. And I paid a little bit to see what the extra features were, because there were some features I needed to make it go seamlessly, because I use podcasts for news, for everything. And then I unsubscribed. I thought I unsubscribed to this new one I'm using. So I never could get the premium up on the new one. I never subscribed to it, right? I'm emailing them and sending them pictures of the receipt and all this stuff. They emailed me back and said, "Sir, this is not our podcast that you subscribe to." I'm like, "Oh shit." So, but because you're such a loyal customer, here's a special discount. They were just like bending over backwards because I have to buy it to use it on my computer. I have to buy the subscription. I don't mind buying. Actually, I prefer on apps to pay a little. I seem to get a much better product than trying to stay with the free stuff all the time. But anyway, I'll read this one from my interpretation. Verse 26, how to live undisturbed. Compassion makes life easy. Surrender is the master of the restless. Therefore, those living sober can participate in the activities of the world undisturbed and without fear. They can enjoy many material goods, yet stay unattached. As long as compassion and surrender continue, all of this is possible. Yeah, that makes sense. I think for the others, I like the Jonathan Starr really speaks to me. The inner is foundation of the outer. The still is the master of the restless. And we talked about, I think it was last week, about the changeable and the unchangeable, and that the thing that did not change was the Tao, that it's unchanging. And the essence of our conversation was we're seeking the unchangeable within the changing. In other words, we crave this inner peace, but we keep thinking we can get inner peace from things outside of us to bring us this peace we're looking for. And that's not where it's located. And in a sense, I think that's what I read in Star for sure. The still is the master of the restless. Practical application may be halt, pause, halt, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. If you start getting flared up, just stop. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Let's take a break. Let's get whatever it is that physically is disturbing us and see if we can see this in a different light. Can I see this differently? Or how can I get compassion into this situation? Or what do I appreciate in the person that I'm having this disagreement with that would help settle this thing down? I always have a better conversation about the negative, something negative, when I start with something I appreciate in that person. I was talking to a friend about a conflict I know that's coming up, and I had not thought about doing that. And I'm going to have to start that conflict out with what I appreciate in that person. And I think it will make the whole interaction go much better. I think that is mastering restlessness with stillness. How do we get compassion into this? It's the Tao Te Ching. It's the path of virtue, not the path of balance. You don't have an equal amount of restlessness with unrestlessness or stillness. It's about walking a path of virtue, walking a path where we can walk in a way that we're a part of. Yeah, that's good. What do you think about this part? The sage travels all day and yet never leaves his inner treasure. More of the same, right? You think of traveling, but yet not traveling. Is he really traveling? Is he going anywhere? Sure, he can go anywhere, but yet he doesn't leave where his real treasure is, which is within. Drew?
Yeah, that reminds me just real quickly of the quote from Alan Watts. I think it's Alan Watts about the only peace you bring The only peace you find at the mountaintop is the peace you bring with you.
Yes.
Just how on a journey, whatever you seek, you're only going to find if you already have it. You're not going to seek it from the goal of the journey. The journey itself might help you, but depending on reaching a certain point to get something you want, you've already got it.
Yeah. What we're seeking for, we already have.
What it brings to mind to me is when you're traveling, you're having all these new experiences and new things come up. Even if it's just going through the day, like we were talking about earlier, where these things come up and you react to them, respond to them. If you stay home in your head, stay at a place of peace, stay at a place of virtue in your head, then it doesn't matter where you travel or what kind of things come up. The plane's late, whatever it is. You can travel all over the place, but if you're still grounded, then you're where you need to be. That's the way I read it.
It doesn't mean you can't go to beautiful places on vacation and not enjoy them, but you can enjoy something without thinking it's going to fulfill you. I think that's the difference.
Yes, buddy, that's good. That's the flip side of what I was talking about with the annoyance. Those positive things come up too, and sometimes they can put you off kilter as much as the negative. If you have those kinds of expectations, or now everything's going to be okay because I finally arrived at my destination.
Yeah. I have friends that go to Florida and walk on the beach to have tranquil time with God. And I'm thinking, I don't criticize that by no means. I like going and walking on the beach. Sometimes I feel a little more connected. I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if you could just get that sitting at home with nothing to stimulate you mentally? And that's the point of Zen meditation, is to just sit. Funny that we do it at a place on the retreat. We do it at this really pretty place with running water and all the stuff. It's just gorgeous. I'm thinking, guys, you really should dig a hole in the side of the mountain. We just go sit in there for a week. I think that's why the cave was such a good place, because it was not about the sensory perception. It allowed you to go within a little more. I'm at fault with that too. I live at a lake with a beautiful view. Go outside, spend outside around the lake all the time. Yeah. Not that view, Lou. We don't want any snow views. No, thank you.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. It's moving from thinking these things exterior to us are going to satisfy something that can only be satisfied from within. Though the views are captivating and beg attention, he remains calm and uninvolved. Tell me, does the Lord of our great empire go out begging for rice? Does that mean he's begging for rice in a way that he thinks that he will find enlightenment by living the life of Buddha? Because that's what they did, was they begged for their food and they ate whatever they were given. Maybe that's what he's talking about there. I hadn't thought about that sentence. One who seeks his treasure in the outer world is cut off from his own roots. Without roots, he becomes restless. Being restless, his mind is weak. And with a mind such as this, he loses all command below heaven. And it starts with seeking his treasure in the outer world. Now, you could automatically flip that to, you've got to work, you've got to make a living. Yeah, you need money to survive in this world. That doesn't mean that you don't go out and make a living. What it means, I think, is that your true treasure, though. You can have all the money in the world and it not be your treasure. Or you could have no money and it be your treasure. Oh, what's that Bible about that? It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. It's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money. I know a lot of poor people who qualify for having that love of money, just as much as wealthy folks that have that love of money. And I know some of each that don't have either. Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'm at Walmart and I envy those pajama wearing folks that shuffle in and get their stuff and shuffle home when their check comes in and go home. They seem to be pretty happy to me. They appear to be. I don't know. But regardless, that starts inward. And that was a great thing about recovery for me, was I started to see that alcohol was not my symptom. Alcohol was a symptom. It wasn't my problem. My problem was all this fear that had trapped me into trying to pacify all of the time. And that's the reason I drank. I started realizing the whole problem was within. What's the phrase? If I'm not the problem, there is no solution. And that's very important, because I can't surrender other people, but I can surrender me. And if I can surrender me, then there's hope. This is all telling me to look within. Turn that light around and look. And if you have difficulty looking in and you're in recovery, I would highly recommend you work through the steps if you have not done that. I don't know anyone that's successful in recovery that does not have a sponsor. No one that I know that I admire their recovery does not have a sponsor that I know of. Maybe some people in and out on the podcast, but all the people I know here, everyone has a sponsor, because as part of the process of you having someone who can guide you through this thing, and has been there, can help shine light on things that we imagine in our head that aren't the way they really are, and we'll get them out on paper and start talking about them. We can see them more clearly than what we could see them before. Then that enables us to start looking within. And then we seem to realize that we already have all of this. It doesn't say that they looked within and things, they found something was added. You said they looked within and found the stillness. They found all these things are already there. I think we're just not awake to it. We're sleepwalking. Anything else, guys? All minds clear. We got in some AA. Thank you. What was that? Scotty? Thank you, Scotty. We need an AA in there. Good. Doesn't count if we don't quote something from the big book. All right. Hope you guys have a good week, and we will see you next week. Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use, and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.